Hello you guys, and welcome to today's video. So you obviously know, if you've been subscribed for a while, that I love reading and I love books, and so I'm here to bring you guys my TBR, or my to be read, just a list of books I want to read in the hopefully near future. Also, most of these books I don't physically have with me because it makes me so anxious having just a big stack of books that I need to read that is on my shelf. Like that, I can't do that. I have 3 physical books to show you, and that's kind of making me anxious because then I also have some books in my Kindle. Anyways, this is just a list of books that I've found interesting and that I want to read. Who knows if I'll get to them, but I wanted to bring them to your guys' attention in case you're looking for books to add to your list of things to read. And yeah, so before we jump into the video, I do want to say we made a purchase. If you didn't see the vlog, I'll link it, go check it out. But I recently got a Kindle Oasis. Okay, now, I've been thinking about this for honestly not that long, but it just made sense because I love having physical books in my shelves. But number 1, I'm running out of room on my shelves. 2, I'm going to college this year and I'm not going to have a ton of room for a bunch of books in my dorm. And then 3, it gets pretty expensive buying books. So we have the Kindle here, but that does not mean I'm gonna stop buying physical books, obviously, because I have some right here. But in the long run, it'll hopefully save money and save space. Honestly, when I was thinking about getting a Kindle, I wasn't gonna get the Oasis because it's kind of expensive, but they were having a great deal. We had great coupons. So we essentially got 2 for the price of 1. I have one, and then my mom and sister are sharing one. I've only had it for like 2 weeks, and I was trying to get through some of my physical books before I started reading on this. So I'm only on my 3rd book on here, but I love it, you guys. I love it because I can read at night and I don't have to have the lights on. I can be laying down in my bed. It's so easy to take anywhere, and it's obviously so like paper thin and light, and I'm having a good time. I'm just gonna say that. Also, you guys, there were some books on my list that I bought on my Kindle. Some of the prices are so good, so good. I bought The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, which is a pretty popular enemies to lovers romance, and I was gonna buy a physical copy of it, which was 10 bucks, but I found it on Kindle for 99 cents. That's what I'm talking about. Not all books are that cheap, but I bought at least 4 books for under $10 total, and I normally spend $10 on one book. So far it's been saving us some money. We're just gonna say that. Anyways, okay, enough talking about my Kindle. We're gonna move on to the list of books that I wanna read. I wrote down some notes in my notebook to kind of help me talk about these books, but you guys, I'm gonna do my best, and please look these books up if you're like, what is she talking about? Or it sounds even somewhat interesting, because I'm not going to be doing these books justice. Okay, we're going to start off with my physical books, which I only have 3 physical books that I want to read in the near future. The first book is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This is going to be a reread because I actually read this in, I think, 7th grade, and I thought it was good, but it was nothing special. And then either freshman or sophomore year of high school, I read the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas, and I loved it. And some people say they even loved this series even more. So I feel like I was just naive and a child and wasn't really, I don't know, I just didn't love it as much as everybody else. So I'm going to reread this and hopefully I'll love it, especially now that my appreciation for Sarah J. Maas has just grown. The premise of this book. This is loosely based off of Beauty and the Beast, but it follows this girl named Feyre who kind of has to provide for her family. So she goes into the woods very often to like hunt, and one day she sees this wolf about to kill this deer. And so she kills the wolf before it can kill the deer, not knowing that the wolf is part of this whole like other magical world. And so she is captured by I think he's a prince in this world, in this new world, and has to stay there captive because she killed the wolf. That's where the Beauty and the Beast element comes in hand, and he's under a curse, and then they start falling in love. And is that the definition of Stockholm Syndrome? falling in love with the chapter. I don't know. Anyways, everybody raves about this series, and I think the 4th book comes out this month. Next month? Maybe next month? I don't know. But we're gonna hop on it. This next book, I have heard nothing but good things about. Everybody raves about it. And that is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I'm finally picking this up, and it gives me Valentine's Day vibes, which is why I really want to read it this month. But this follows the son of the very first female president of the US, and he has this like ongoing feud with the Prince of England. That's not really good for publicity, so they have to start fake being friends, but it turns into something more, so it's an enemies to lovers. That's literally all I know about this book, and everybody loves it. So I hope it lives up to the hype, and I'm very excited. This next book I picked up, I was just browsing through a local bookstore and I decided to grab something new. So this is Kiss My Cupcake by Helena Hunting. Can we not be overexposed? Hello? Okay, well, there she is, slightly overexposed. I am a bit insecure about the title, a little cheesy, but a lot of people I've heard really like Helena Hunting and her books, so we picked this one up. This follows a girl who's been dreaming about opening a bakery, and she finally is able to launch a new bakery and like all her Instagram worthy cupcakes and things. But right next door, a sports bar opens, and this kind of throws a wrench in her plans because she doesn't think it's going to be good for business. So yet another enemies to lovers. Do we see a theme? That's really all I know about this. Everybody says our books are so sweet and cute, and here we are. It was 50% off. What did you expect? Okay, but that's all the physical books that I have. Now moving on to the books that I have bought on my Kindle but have yet to read. The next book is A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos, which I believe is a book that was translated from French, but I saw this on TikTok and it really intrigued me, and it was also $2 on Kindle. So I was like, okay, might as well pick it up. This takes place in a world where there was a cataclysm, so Earth is broken up into a bunch of different little kind of floating islands almost called arcs. We follow a girl named Ophelia who lives on this arc called Amina, I believe, and each arc has like different, like not abilities, but like kind of different environments. In this arc, all objects have souls, and Ophelia is able to read the souls of these objects and communicate with them. She can also travel through mirrors, and Ophelia is promised to marry Thorn, who is part of this powerful like dragon clan. You guys, if this sounds weird, I don't know, but a lot of people say it's really good, so don't even come for me. So she travels to the capital of, I guess, all of the different worlds with her new fiance, and kind of has to figure out why she was chosen to be his fiance, uncovering what is actually going on. I'm sure there's more to the story, I don't know, but the whole idea of having this cataclysm with a bunch of different islands of the world kind of intrigued me, so here we are. It's on my list. It's something different, so yeah. The next book on my Kindle is Beach Read by Emily Henry. Another enemies to lovers, I believe. I think it is. Honestly, I don't know. This book has gotten a lot of attention since it released, I believe, last year. And it's about two authors who live in neighboring beach houses for the summer. One's name is January, and she is a best-selling romance author. And the other one's name is August, and he writes a lot of literary fiction. And they're both kind of stuck in this rut. They have writer's block. And so they decide to swap genres. So January starts writing literary fiction, and August starts writing romance to kind of get them out of this rut. And they eventually form this connection. Moving on to the next book. This one is my most current read, and that's The Black Kids by Christina Hammonds Reed. I decided to pick this up because it's Black History Month, and so I'm reading that book. And then I'm also currently reading We Are Not Yet Equal, which I've had for forever and I just haven't picked up. I'm reading one chapter a day, but it's kind of just like It's a YA version of the book White Rage and goes through the history of like Reconstruction and Jim Crow laws and things like that. Basically the history that my school never taught me. So here we are, teaching ourselves. Love to see it. Anyways, okay, moving on. I definitely I want to add more and start incorporating more Black authors and like diverse books, because as we can see, white people. Sarah J. Maas writes about white people. Which there's, if I look at my shelf, like, where's the diversity? And I'm Black, where's the diversity? So I need to be better about that, and I am gonna try my best. Okay, so this story takes place in 1992 during the Rodney King riots, and it follows this girl named Ashley who lives pretty wealthy in Los Angeles. She's always just grown up being one of the girls, but obviously has like a different experience. All of her friends are white, she's Black, and once these riots start happening, she really starts to kind of see the divide between her and her friends, and she becomes one of the Black kids instead of just one of the girls. There's obviously this like shift in her life, and I'm only on chapter 2 maybe, because it's just started late last night. But in the first couple of chapters, she talks about, she knows the whole Rodney King trial is happening, but she doesn't really care about it, or like it's just in the back of her mind. It's not really something important to her, but I think that will definitely shift throughout the story, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So moving on. This video is gonna be so long if I don't stop talking to myself. The next book on my list, I actually bought this for Reese for her birthday, but I've been dying to read it, and that is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. So 5 years ago, this girl in a small town was murdered, and the case was already closed. The killer's in jail, like everybody knows who did it, but our main character, Pippa, isn't so sure that the person convicted for this murder actually did it. So she decides to take on this case for her final project. She starts uncovering secrets that people want to stay hidden. And it begs the question, is the killer still out there? That just sounds really good to me. Next up is The Wicked King by Holly Black. This book is the second book in, I think it's called the Folk of the Air series, which I read Cruel Prince, the first book, maybe 2 years ago. I didn't absolutely love it, but I definitely really enjoyed it, and I want to continue on with this series because a lot of people say the series gets better as it goes on, and it just really intrigues me. But to not spoil anything, I'm going to talk about the first book. The main character's name is Jude, and she's a human who lives amongst fairies. It sounds really weird when I say like I read books about fairies, but it's not what you think it is. I don't know. Okay, we're just gonna move past that fact. So she lives amongst a bunch of fairies, and they're very mean to her growing up, especially Prince Carden. And she is sick and tired of being bullied and just demeaned. So she's kind of power hungry in the sense that she wants to take back control of her life and not constantly be beaten down. And a way that she can do this, being human, is get involved in kind of like the politics of the court. And so she gets entangled in that sort of situation and has to defy Carden, but there's an enemies to lovers in there. That's what I'm going to tell you about that book. My next book is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I adore Christina Lauren. They have written some of my favorite books, Josh Nail's Guide to Not Dating and Love in Other Words. Mwah. Love in Other Words was the first book I read this year, and 5 out of 5 for me. Favorite book I've read so far. So good. I don't know why. Anyways, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about The Unhoneymooners. This book is about a girl named Olive whose twin sister is getting married, and the best man is her enemy. His name is Ethan, and they just don't get along. And so she has to suck it up for this wedding for 24 hours to be, she's the maid of honor. I did not say that. She's the maid of honor, he's the best man. So they kind of have to suck it up for the 24 hours at the wedding and act civil. But then everybody except them gets food poisoning because they didn't eat one of the dishes. And there's a honeymoon that is already paid for and non-refundable. And so Olive's twin sister pushes her to go on this honeymoon with Ethan. And eventually they decide to go, and they have to pretend to be newlyweds because it's a honeymoon. And Olive starts to wonder if she's really actually pretending to be in love with him or if there's a lot more going on. The next book on my list is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. In this story, there are two sisters who are witches that secretly live among humans, but one of the sisters is found brutally murdered. And so, I don't know her name, but the sister who's alive goes on this quest for vengeance to find who killed her twin sister, and on this journey, she meets... I didn't write any names of the characters, so I don't know their names, but she meets one of the princes of hell. She doesn't really know if he's truly there to help her or not, but she needs all the help that she can get, and so she lets him go on this journey with her, and that's all I know. Next up, this is another book that I've heard everybody rave about for years. Is it years? I don't know, probably. And I just haven't picked up yet. And that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've yet to read a Taylor Jenkins Reid book, but they are on my list. So this, I believe, is kind of an interview format of Evelyn, who is this seclusive Hollywood icon. And she's obviously, by the title you can tell, she's had 7 husbands, and nobody really knows all of the secrets to her scandalous life. So she decides to hire someone to write her biography, and this is the only person who she's ever told any of like this kind of behind the scenes to. I believe it goes through her experience with all of these 7 husbands, and that's the extent of what I know. The next book is November 9 by Colleen Hoover. I've only read one other Colleen Hoover book and I really enjoyed it. So many people love Colleen Hoover, so honestly all of her books are on my list to read, but this one caught my attention. The 2 main characters are named Fallon and Ben, and Fallon is at this restaurant one day. I believe she's kind of like a celebrity or like in the public image, or at least her dad was, or something surrounding that. I don't know. But she's at this restaurant one day and her dad is kind of going off to her about her appearance and things like that. Ben swoops in and pretends to be Fallon's boyfriend so that he can kind of get her dad off of her back. And from there they connect and they decide to meet up once a year at the same restaurant on November 9th. And in the meantime, they give each other these tasks to do within the year until they next see each other. Those are all the pieces of the story that I know. The last book that I'm going to share with you guys today is The Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the 3rd and I believe final book in her From Blood and Ash series. That's what it's called. This book comes out April 20th and I'm so excited. I read From Blood and Ash and then Kingdom of Flesh and Fire last month. I was going to say a couple months ago, girl. It was in January, last month. But the premise of the first book is Poppy, she was chosen as the maiden for this ritual called the Ascension, which there's a lot of secrecy around what actually happens during the Ascension, but basically it gives immortality to these humans, and she's very sheltered because she's the maiden. She can't talk to people, people can't talk to her, she can't go out, there's only certain books she can read, she has to eat at certain times, things like that. So basically a prisoner. But she gets this new personal guard named Hawk. He helps her experience life while she's still the maiden and very sheltered, and they become very close and romance ensues, things happen. The books are long and there is a lot of world building, but I personally didn't mind it. I really enjoyed the books, and I'm so excited for this last book because the second one ended on a cliffhanger and it's just, yeah. Those are some of the books on my list. I definitely have a ton more, so if you guys like this type of video, let me know. I can share hundreds of other books that I want to read. And if you've read in these books, let me know what you thought down below. Please give me ideas of other books to add to my list. If there's some books you're dying to read, comment them. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.
So long silent movies, the quiet dances on the screen.